Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for update 43 of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we have got two absolutely gorgeous new toys for you. So we're going to jump right into the first one. Honestly, one of my favorite handguns of all times. That's right, it's the C96 Mauser with a gorgeous model made by Stefan, who's made a good chunk of our Wurstwurld guns. I just adore this. I love the lines of it. I love the shape. I love that handle. I actually got to fire this a while back, a real steel one, and it just I need one of these in my life at some point. So how does this load? Well, this has a magazine, but it's integrated, just like, say, our Remington Model 8. We need to pull its bolt back. We can see the magazine in there, and insert one of our clips that fires, I believe this is 7.63 by 25 Mauser. So we insert that in. We then grab the clip and push the rounds right in. We can then grab the bolt there to let it snap forward. Beautiful. Let's do another. Absolutely delightful. In real life, if you've never fired one of these in real life, it really has a distinct feel from, say, a 1911 or something like that. And a lot of it has to do with just the geometry of it, how long the barrel is, how high everything sits up. It sort of rolls back in your hand. Also, because there's not as much metal being slammed back by it firing. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. So on to our next toy. This one is a good deal more involved. Yeah, let's just show it. That's right. It's the 2019 Detective Special, also known as I believe, what is it, when what is it, Fallout New Vegas did a rendition of this same fictional firearm, and they just called it That Gun, which, man, if there's a handgun that deserves that title, it would be this one. So basically, just a little background on this. This is made by a good buddy of mine, Adam Nerva. This is actually the second version of this handgun that he's made. The first one was for testing some shaders. In fact, an earlier version of the shaders that are running in H3. Man, what would that have been, 3 years ago, maybe? And now we have the second version, which the idea behind this was to do, once again, a rendition. If you're not familiar with this prop, while gorgeous, it doesn't actually make any mechanical sense. The reason is because the fellow who designed the prop basically kit-bashed components of real firearms together to create sort of a futuristic, like, 357 Magnum. And so it's got parts of a Bulldog revolver inside of it, and it's got part of a Steyr Mannlicher 22 caliber bolt action, a sort of like weird small barrel, large barrel. And so in doing this rendition, the idea was to try to make it make mechanical sense, as well as to basically try to do a quote-unquote, I guess you could almost say, like a hard sci-fi gun, in that it is a revolver at its core. We can spin it out just like any of our regular revolvers here, and it can fire as a standard revolver, which we'll do right now just to show that. So I'm going to grab one of our pieces of ammo. It fires 10 millimeter discarding Sabot magnetic, as it's called, and we can just totally fire it as a double action only revolver. As you can see, it's got this built-in laser sight that's on as long as the firearm is held. Beautiful. Just a nice, big, meaty 10 millimeter, high mass projectile. But so what would a future cop need out of their service firearm? Well, it would be the ability to, on demand, fire in a much more powerful capacity. And so the idea behind this is that this is a railgun assisted weapon, or has a railgun assisted firing mode. So I'm going to grab the two pieces that goes with this, which are a heat clip, a thermal clip, and a battery. So I'm going to put the battery in here first. Beautiful. And so the way this works is that if we click down on the touchpad, which on a regular revolver is cocking the hammer, it will toggle auto charge. So that was the battery charging into the capacitor and our sort of like it's ready sound. Now let's fire it. I'm going to pull this off to the side so you can really see it. Oh, actually have to load some fresh rounds in. Wonderful. So when firing in that mode, basically the projectile is accelerated to between 3.5 and 4.5 times its velocity based on what the specific mass of the cartridge that we're using. And as we can see, the battery started draining on it. So we're using up, every time the capacitor has to charge, it pulls some juice out of the battery. And the whole electrical and thermal system of this is designed essentially with the idea that this is way too powerful to have in this package, and so there's some compromises. If I keep firing this, you'll see the first problem. Oh, look at that. The gun is getting really hot from all that railgun action. And so if we actually pull open, I'm going to click right on the touchpad, which toggles the position of the firearm forward, so it's easier to access this. If we pull this open, we can see our thermal clip in there is getting red hot. And so if we want, we can eject it by just pulling this back. We're just going to pull the thermal clip out of the firearm, and then we replace it. This is important, as once the capacity of the thermal clip gets exceeded, the firearm will start overheating. So cool. So we've seen the Slugger enough here. Let's take the, I believe this is the Swarm Shot here. This is sort of like a buckshot in a 10mm round, or in fact, more like high velocity rat shot. Let's fire some more. Oh, that was our battery running out, so we got to dump that. Pop in a new one. I think we're out. So what I'm going to do now is, instead of ejecting the thermal clip at the right moment, I am just going to keep firing it to show you what happens. So the gun is steaming now, which means our thermal clip is basically at capacity. We're going to keep firing. Oh, she's getting real hot now. Oh, we're getting just a little bit of glow. Oh, she's getting real hot now. Let's preemptively dump our battery. Now watch the muzzle effect as I keep firing this as well. We're getting more sort of particles coming out almost in a cone. That's chunks of the barrel that you are blowing out as the firearm is overheating. And so if you keep firing in this state, where you're at, where the system itself is actually getting hot, you're basically permanently damaging the weapon. It's obliterating the barrel, which will make all of its projectiles exceedingly inaccurate. Which matters less for the buckshot, but for everything else, severely impacts the usefulness. Also, as the system heats up, the battery efficiency plummets. You go from being able to get about 15 shots off of a battery to eventually only being able to get 5 or 6. Oh, battery's already dead. So yeah, so let's say we got her this hot. Can we do anything about it? Well, you can eject the thermal clip, you can put in another, and it will start to bleed the heat out from the weapon. There we go. Place it again. Beautiful. So yeah, so that is how the 2019 Detective Special functions. As I said, the whole idea was to create something that was far more powerful than its form factor suggested, but had to be operated in a very precise way to make up for the fact that it has an energy system far larger than its frame is really designed for. There are a couple other special pieces of ammo for this. We've got a fragmentation shot, very similar to the Swag 12 fragmenting anti-personnel round. Don't get on the wrong end of that. I'm going to click down on the touchpad so it doesn't auto-charge my shots. Cool. And let's see. Oh, and this is my personal favorite. This is our proximity mine shot that fires actually at a very low velocity. If you're firing this as an uncharged shot, you have to really sort of bank it because it's not coming out very fast. You can fire it as a charged shot. It just might explode when you do that. So it's a very sensitive piece of ammunition. But if we fire this here, like so, we can then take any physics active object, or say an agent striding into it, and boom! Proximity mine. Please note that other rounds set this off. So, be careful. So, I hope you all enjoy this. It's funny, this is now the most complicated firearm in all of H3 by a good measure, having to hybridize sort of magazine, revolver, and bolt action functionality. It has a completely and an electrical and thermal system. It has a bespoke script set for it and took a while, and of course has just this phenomenal, gorgeous model. Let's look at that beauty. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump over to the Wurstwurld scene real quick so I can talk about a couple changes that were made to it this week. So, we're over in our Wurstwurld scene, and I wanted to mention that a few things have been added to it, and a couple changes have been made. The first of which is that the two firearms that I've already shown you today are in the scene, in various places. Check the changelog, I say which building they're near. I also added two other things into the scene that weren't present, but needed a little tuning before I did so. The first is this beautiful old Remington rolling block, Navy pistol that was in the game prior, but just someone asked, why isn't that in the Wild West scene? And I was like, Anton's an idiot. So the way this one works, if you don't remember from that past devlog, is that it's got a hammer and a breech block, and the way we open and shut these is basically just a touchpad click and a drag in that direction. So for the hammer, we click, drag down. Breech block, we click, drag down. We pop a round in. We click, drag up. Breech block is closed. Boom! Shot. Oh. Nice little plinker. So yeah, and there are two of them in here for you. Ooh, pardon me. So, it sounded like one of my robots there. Okay, cool. So the C96 is over here, and then, it's by the Sujuk Brothers Mining Company. We have some rebuilt Dynamite. I had to alter the way the explosions on these work to actually make it so that they damaged bots instead of just flung physics objects around. We also have a box of our Strike Anywhere matches. We click the touchpad to open those up, and I like to keep these up right here in a quick belt slot because I can just grab a match from the top here. The way this works is we just drag these across a surface to light them. Let's find ourselves a civvy bot here. Light it about there. Wait a second. Oh, not quite close enough to him. I forgot to spawn lock my Dynamite. You might notice, hey, there's civilian bots up here, and we're up near the sort of boot midtown. That's right, there are now respawning civilian bots in all of the three major areas. So they'll come back eventually, like 10 to 15 seconds. Fun to just abuse, really, play around with. Yoink! Oop, too far. They have a lot of life, though, so it actually takes a good amount of dynamite. Oh, man, he just does not want to go. I'm going to give him a present. Here, Whoop. Oh, there he goes. Bye, Mr. Civbot. So yeah, so the dynamite is now in. It's way more effective against the bandit bots. As I said, the civ bots have sort of artificially high life to them, so they don't constantly get taken out from ricochets and such. And then the last change that's in here, which I'm not really, actually not sure, I'll demo it if I can remember where I put my badge. Let's go ahead and grab a Mauser here, is that the way the Bandit Bonanza mode that engages once you have eliminated the 10 named bandits, now actually gets more difficult. Before, it was basically randomly picking one of 4 profiles for you to fight against, and now what it does is the first 4 profiles are what they have been so far, and then after that it gets more difficult and it loops entirely with the hard stuff. So let's see here, I put my badge down somewhere, so let's use our handy dandy button to return it to us. Put our badge on. Let's go try to use some dynamite. Actually, we should keep this on the ready. Oh, that's a civvy. That's the other nice thing about having these all over the place, is you enter an area now, and you're not quite sure if there's baddies in it immediately. We're good. Gotta try to get rooftop position here. There they are. Haven't seen me yet. Oh goodness, they see me. Boom! Remember, when you're doing throwing stuff, make sure you know where your monitor is, so you don't lose a monitor playing the game. Oh, too high. Let's get around side. Looks like he was already damaged from the dynamite. Oh, he's being a nuisance. Oh, needs another. Ooh. Oh, it's hard to get the fuse timing right with these. For it. Oh, way too high. Gotta get closer. Oh, still coming. Oh, still alive. Let's finish him off with the Gatling gun. It's not the right angle. Gotta move it. Got him. So yeah, so for those of you who are still enjoying the scene, just run around shooting the bandit bots, there's now a bunch of new toys for you to do so with. So I hope you enjoy. So let's go ahead and jump out of VR and talk about what else changed with this update.
Yo! So we're out of VR now. Pardon the HMD face. I have been testing all morning, so as you can see, it's taking its toll. So what else is different with this update? Going through nice and efficiently. Stripper clip loading sounds have been replaced with the proper ones. They sound far more correct now, and they're actually based on round class. So eventually, when we've got some heavy-duty rounds versus intermediate and pistol rounds coming off of them, there'll be a suitably meaty click when you're loading them off. The Mk3 and the Browning high power now both properly have magazine safeties. This was a user suggestion that those two firearms apparently will not fire if the magazine isn't present. Say if you just have a single round chambered and have dropped the mag on it. So that is in there now. For those of you using touchpad locomotion, I meant to do this a long time ago. I changed the sprinting energy, i.e. when you double click with the touchpad to go faster, to instead of being like a video game length, which is like 4 seconds, to a actual human length, which is closer to like a minute or two, with about a 5 to 10 seconds to recollect yourself and recharge that hidden bar. So that should be far less irritating to use. It basically just brings it in line with what you can effectively do with the arm swinger mode, because obviously with arm swinger you can move as fast as you can pump your arms, but obviously this gets really tiring, so they're about equivalent now. I finally fixed the untextured 308 Winchester round. It's actually super embarrassing. That was one of the first round types that went into the game back when I made the first bolt action rifle, put in the Seiko. The thing is, that was the only firearm that used that round, so I never really filled out its type. And then when I was cleaning up some textures from the project, I found some old cartridge textures, and I was like, surely I'm not using these anymore. I can just hit the delete key on this. And I was super duper still using them. But I basically just went in and properly replaced them now. So it's actually got a full suite, the sort of like the 6 core types that the other sort of intermediate and large scale rounds have. So that should be dealt with. As I mentioned when I was in the Wurstwurld scene, Dynamite has been upgraded to function similar to the grenades, and that there's basically hidden shrapnel rays that go out, which is actually what is doing the damage to things like the bots. Single action revolvers can now be decocked properly. Before, basically, if the revolver was fully cocked, you couldn't decock it or go into the toggled state. Now, going into the toggled state takes the hammer down to half cock, and then when you return to the standard state, the hammer is all the way forward. So you now should be able to go through the whole cycle without firing the weapon. Let's see here. I mentioned before, civvy bots are in the 3 primary areas. We have our upgraded bot bonanza mode. The bot bonanza spawns no longer spawn in the same place twice in a row. So there was a case before, because of the randomization, you could just have finished eliminating the bandit bots in an area, and suddenly one would just, because you had extinguished all of them, one would just spawn right next to you, shoot you point blank, and it just felt broken and stupid. So that's been fixed. Let's see, other minor fixes. Fixed the horrifically misaligned sights on the Model 10 revolver. I know there's still a whole bunch of firearms in H3 that have iron sights that don't converge properly at like 15 to 25 meters. It'll eventually be dealt with, but I already had that model in scene. It was easy to do, so I just went ahead and did that now. I fixed the broken physics on the 8400 bolt action. The whole front of the rifle was non-physical. Whoops, fixed now. Fixed the tactical knife braking for touch users. It was like a missing reference. I made it so that if you are spinning the single action revolvers and release them, that rotational inertia is preserved, just like it is with the double actions. And then fixed a couple weird bugs with the badge E-slab return button and the glasses in the Wurstwurld scene. Whew. So that's everything for this update. I hope you really enjoyed playing with the 2019 Detective Special. It took way more work to get working with all of those little bits and bobs and all of the complex states that it can have than I thought would be the case, but it's absolutely worth it. Beyond everything you saw, I've just been plugging away at systems, new sound system. If you caught the last sort of patch note message on the Steam community, we hit a milestone with H3 last update, which is that the way that I load things in Unity is basically a huge chunk of the game just loads at runtime, because it's the sandbox game, you can just choose to spawn anything you want at any time. And so I preload it. So I've been sort of lazily relying on the Unity resources folder for for that kind of content, just because it gets auto-loaded. It appears that there is a file size limit on that folder, which is 4 gigs, and we totally went over it last update, and so I had to frantically compress some textures. Thankfully, I caught some stuff that was like 4K that shouldn't have been, like those bananas. But what it means is that in addition to the sound system, we are now also working on a new sort of asset preloading and bundling system for the game, which from well, I haven't guaranteed it yet, but to everything in my understanding, once it's done, the H3 should load faster once this is done, and might even be smaller on disk because it uses a different kind of compression. So just to let you know what else is up and what else is being worked on. So yeah. Anywho, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend playing with the new toys. Definitely jump back into to Wurstwurld and play around with Bonanza bots with all of the new toys that are in there. I've spent far too much time the past couple days just fighting them purely with Dynamite. It feels preposterous in all the right ways. So, take care. Peace.